Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Pan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening: Aviation Minister and the regulator summon IndiGo as flight disruptions leave thousands of passengers stranded for the third day. More than 400 flights cancelled till afternoon from 4 major airports alone. The airline cites a multitude of unforeseen operational challenges, including tech glitches and updated crew rostering rules. Pilots associations claim IndiGo's prolonged unorthodox lean manpower strategy is the reason behind the current flight disruptions, accuse the airline of cartel-like behavior and short-sighted planning despite a 2-year window to prepare for the new crew rostering rules. Prime Minister Modi receives Russia's President Putin at the Palam airport as he arrives for his first state visit since the war in Ukraine. India to push for increasing pharma, agri and textile exports to cut the trade deficit with Russia. 10 intergovernmental agreements and 15 commercial deals likely to be inked. The Sensex and the Nifty snap a 4-day losing streak. The Nifty reclaims 26,000, but the broader markets underperform. The rupee recovers sharply after hitting a new low of 90.42 against the dollar. 60% of market participants expect a rate cut tomorrow as the RBI gears up for the monetary policy decision. Some expect the central bank to keep its ammunition dry after the steep decline in the rupee. President Donald Trump says the path ahead for Ukraine's peace talks is unclear. Trump's statement comes after a meeting between Putin and Trump's envoy failed to reach a compromise. Ukraine's President Zelensky rules out giving up territory that Russia has captured. Russia attacks key regions in Ukraine overnight, including a power facility in Odessa. The Trump administration tightens the vetting process for H-1B visas used largely by skilled Indian workers. All applicants must make their social media profiles public as part of a preview of their online presence. CNBC TV 18's Newsbreak confirmed Tata Power CEO says the company is close to finalising a power purchase agreement with the Gujarat government, paving the way for the revival of the Mundra port. British American Tobacco is set to dilute its stake in ITC Hotels worth 3,000 crore rupees in the open market tomorrow. The floor price has been set at a 1% discount to the current market price. Parliament passes the Central Excise Amendment Bill to raise the duties on tobacco products. Opposition MPs protest over air pollution in the capital and demand a debate in Parliament. Well, first up, the day's market action. The Sensex and the Nifty snapping the 4-day losing streak ended mildly higher today. The Nifty did manage to hold on to the 26,000 mark. IT and realty stocks leading from the front today, but the broader markets underperformed yet again. The mid-Nifty Bank as well as the mid-cap index ended lower. That's the picture as far as the stock markets are concerned. The currency action, the rupee recovered in late trade, fell below the psychological 90 to a dollar barrier, but the currency hit a new low of 90.42 before it started to see a recovery. Currency dealers said the recovery was on account of limited dollar selling by the Reserve Bank of India and lower demand for dollars in the market. But the big story that we're tracking today: flight cancellations at India's largest airline, IndiGo, have left passengers stranded for the third consecutive day. Over 400 flights were cancelled at 4 major airports: Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad and Bengaluru alone. The aviation minister summoned IndiGo and other stakeholders for a meeting. There was chaos at airports as passengers clashed with IndiGo staff, many taking to social media to share posts and images of their ordeal. IndiGo cites a multitude of unforeseen operational challenges, including technology glitches and the updated crew rostering rules. CEO Peter Elbers reiterates the same in an internal mail to employees. Elbers said, and I quote, the company was proactively reaching out to affected customers. However, the pilots' associations claim that IndiGo's prolonged, unorthodox, lean manpower strategy is the reason behind the current flight disruptions. They accuse the airline of cartel-like behavior and short-sighted planning despite a 2-year window to prepare for the new crew rostering rules. So what are these new rules? The second and final phase of the rules were implemented last month. Under the new rules, the weekly rest period for pilots has been increased to 48 hours from 36 hours previously, and night landings have been limited to 2 from 6 earlier. Our team of reporters Shivani, Santya and Madiha bring us the latest on what has been a nightmare for thousands of passengers across India.
India's aviation system is facing one of its most challenging days in recent months, with the surge in flight disruptions across major metros. And what began as operational strain for IndiGo has now snowballed into widespread cancellations and delays. 350 plus flights cancelled so far, 95 from Delhi, 85 from Mumbai, 84 from Bangalore and 74 from Hyderabad. And these four cities together accounted for the bulk of the day's cancellations. And not just cancellations, the delays added to the chaos. 5 to 6 hours average delays on all major airports. The on-time performance by IndiGo fell sharply to 19% on December 3rd. This is a massive drop from 84% in October and 67% in the whole of November. And the ripple effect was felt across the entire network. Domestic passenger traffic slipped from 5.36 lakh flyers on November 30th to 4.74 lakh on December 3rd. And total domestic flights operated also fell during this time. This is a clear sign of mounting operational pressures nationwide, and especially on the largest domestic carrier, IndiGo. Now, as regulators monitor the evolving situation, let's see how soon IndiGo can turn this situation around.
हम सुबह 4 बजे आ गए थे एयरपोर्ट।
आप सुबह 4 बजे से एयरपोर्ट पे हैं?
बिल्कुल
जी। तो आखिरी बार कब इंटीमेशन दिया गया?
कोई इंटीमेशन नहीं, 10 बजे के बाद कोई इंटीमेशन नहीं है
जी।
और वहाँ भी कोई सुनवाई नहीं है। एक आदमी की ड्यूटी खत्म होती है, दूसरा आ जाता है छुट्टी।
तो अभी क्या बता रहे हैं, डिले है या कैंसिल है?
कुछ नहीं बता रहे जी।
ओके,
जाना नहीं जाना तो जाके कैंसिल करवा लो अपना।
तो आपने क्या डिसाइड किया? आपको कैंसिल?
मैं कैंसिल करवा के बाय ट्रेन जा रहा हूँ।
The IndiGo airline chaos at major airports across the nation continues for the fourth consecutive day. On Wednesday till 5 p.m. as many as 33 flights were cancelled and 51 flights were delayed at Mumbai airport alone. IndiGo has cited a technical glitch and crew shortage due to winter season rostering as the reasons behind the disruption. However, aviation experts say the situation has worsened due to a lack of proper planning while implementing the revised flight duty time limitations, which led to an acute pilot shortage. Experts also point out that an Airbus software patch rolled out over the weekend played a significant role. Right now, we are at Mumbai airport, and this is a queue outside IndiGo counter. These passengers here are waiting for information regarding their cancelled flights, and they're also trying to reschedule their flights. Now, if we talk about all these factors, whether it's the crew shortage because of winter season rostering, or technical glitch, or Airbus software patch, or the lack of proper planning for revised FTTL, all this has led. All this has have had a domino effect on the operations, and the DGCA has now summoned the airlines. IndiGo, in the meantime, has said that it's working round the clock to rectify the situation, but also admits that it may take another 48 hours to fully normalize operations. IndiGo claims that it is providing it is making proper food and accommodation related arrangements for the passengers. However, the passengers we spoke to had a different experience.
From Mumbai to Hyderabad, I received a message from IndiGo at 5:30 in the morning that my flight has got cancelled. And I am calling the call center from last 2 hours. I could not reach the call centers. And everyone who is waiting here from last 2 hours. I am in this line from 1.5 hours and I have not moved forward actually. There is no response from the IndiGo people.
Well, the crisis at IndiGo has escalated to a point that Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu called for a meeting with all the airlines, all the stakeholders to assess the situation and discuss ways how to stabilize this situation. Earlier in the day, IndiGo officials met the aviation regulator, DGCA, to discuss about what's happening at the airports with their flight cancellations and what they're doing to minimize the disruptions. At the heart of the issue is the revised FDTL, which is flight duty time limit, that requires the crew, the pilot, to have more weekly rest. Now, these norms had come into effect in 2 phases. They were introduced in January 2024, but they were implemented in 2 phases. The first phase was implemented on the 1st of July this year, and the second phase was implemented on the 1st of November this year. Now, these norms have increased the weekly rest from 36 hours to 48 hours, and it has decreased landings at night from 6 to 2, and it has also changed the definition of night from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m., which was earlier, to now 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Now that means a more number of crew will be requiring to take rest, and that means IndiGo has lesser number of crew to be rostered on its flights. And on top of it, IndiGo has expanded its capacity, taken more aircraft, added more flights in the winter schedule, but it doesn't have that many pilots to operate these flights, and that is leading to these large-scale cancellations. The pilot unions are alleging that this is poor planning by IndiGo. IndiGo already knew in advance that these rules are coming into effect. They were introduced in January 2024. So IndiGo did not plan properly and did not hire on time to tackle this situation. They're also going to an extent to say that this could be an arm-twisting tactic by the airline to force the DGCA to relax these new rest norms for the crew. IndiGo has been assuring the regulator that it is taking steps, it is cancelling flights in advance and informing the passengers to minimize the disruptions and to minimize the inconvenience. But looking at the large-scale operations at IndiGo, about 2,200 flights a day and hundreds of flights being cancelled, it will take some time for the airline to mitigate this crisis and normalize the situation, and it will take few more days for things to come back to normal. And it has also led to a spike in airfares across other airlines.
The airlines were given 2.5 years. They circumvented, did not allow the CR to be implemented. The commercial interests of the country had taken precedence over the safety factors. We are happy that the High Court gave an order and the first phase was implemented on 1st of July. And that is for the weekly rest and all that was coming in the first half. In the second half of the agreement, the CR was implemented on 1st of November. And from 28th of November till 5:30 in the morning on 30th, all aircraft were modified by IndiGo. Not a single flight cancellation, not a single flight delay. What has cascaded in last 2 days? I will tell you. It is a total failure on the airline system, the crew rostering, the network planning.
Well, and those are questions that IndiGo's management will have to answer. Now, the big story, Russian President Vladimir Putin in India for his 2-day state visit. This is the president's first visit to India since the war with Ukraine began. Prime Minister Modi received Putin at the Palam airport and will host a private dinner tonight. Talks between the two leaders likely to focus on boosting defense ties and strengthening bilateral relations. This visit comes at a time when US President Donald Trump is claiming that India will significantly cut its purchases of Russian oil. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh met his Russian counterpart earlier today. Both leaders held defense bilateral talks and reaffirmed their long-standing strategic partnership. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also met with Russian delegations led by Denis Manturov, the first Deputy Prime Minister. Both sides discussed a plethora of issues, including investment, banking and finance, so several meetings ahead of President Putin's arrival. Parikshit Luthra joins us now with the latest. Parikshit, President Putin now in India. Take us through what's the agenda for the next 27 hours.
Well, yes, President Putin will be having extensive meetings with Prime Minister Narendra Modi today and tomorrow. He's already in a meeting with the Prime Minister in that SUV. They're both heading together to the Prime Minister's residence for dinner. Tonight, there will be important meetings at the PM's residence. Tomorrow, he receives a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. He will be visiting Rajghat and then hold extensive discussions with PM, both in a bilateral and delegation level format. They'll also address a press conference, and I believe there are a huge contingent of Indian and foreign media there at Hyderabad House for this. Putin and Prime Minister Modi will be addressing business leaders as well. Finally, President Putin will be meeting India's President Draupadi Murmu at the Rashtrapati Bhavan before departing from India. We can expect economic cooperation to take center stage during this visit. The Russian president is coming with 7 ministers, a large business delegation, 10 intergovernmental agreements, 15 commercial deals will be signed. During this visit, we will see India and Russia adopting a joint statement and also announce a future economic cooperation roadmap 2030. Now, ahead of the visit, Russia has promised to increase imports of chemicals, raw materials, equipment, textiles, consumer products and food products as well. There will be discussions on an India-Eurasian Economic Union FTA, but this is unlikely to be signed any time soon. Greater exports of pharmaceuticals, textiles, agri-products from India to Russia will be a priority. Both sides will sign an agreement on migration of Indian skilled workers to Russia. There will be discussions on Eurasian transport framework to boost connectivity. India and Russia will explore increasing connectivity via the international North-South Transport Corridor and Chennai-Vladivostok Corridor. There could be an agreement on Arctic shipbuilding and tech, space and nuclear energy. That will be outlined as major priority areas for the future. Both sides will reaffirm a target of $100 billion in bilateral trade by 2030. For context, total bilateral trade was $68.7 billion in FY25. Indian exports stand at $4.9 billion and include pharma, chemical, steels and marine products to Russia. India imports $63.8 billion worth of crude oil, sunflower oil, fertilizer, coking coal and precious metals. On the defense front, there will be an announcement on ratification of a military logistics pact which will allow India and Russia to access each other's military bases. Russia has liked to make a strong pitch for full tech transfer and sell the Su-57 fifth-generation fighter jet, but India won't make any commitments. Russia may also propose to sell the S-500 air defense system, but India has not made up its mind. India and Russia will explore co-development, co-production in several areas. When it comes to energy, Indian entities are likely to continue importing Russian oil. 35% of India's crude imports in November came from Russia. Russian oil imports were around 1.9 million barrels per day till November 21, and our crude imports from Russia will continue in the range of 800,000 barrels per day in December. Now, this is what analysts are expecting. This is because Indian entities can continue buying Russian oil from non-sanctioned entities. When it comes to global issues, there will be extensive discussions on the Russia-Ukraine war, also how to strengthen the BRICS framework and reforming the SCO.
All right, Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. That's what is on the agenda for President Putin and Prime Minister Modi. Former Indian ambassador to Russia, Ajay Malhotra, says pharma, fertilizer and the energy sector could get a boost from the India-Russia summit. Let's take a look.
There are opportunities out there, and we do hope that our business takes advantage of them. Pharma, fertilizers, nuclear energy, manpower deployment, as you mentioned, and we'll be signing in other spheres also, S&T, space, defense. There would be, as you said, the equivalent of the LEMOA, RELOS as they call it. Ramos is an outstanding example of our cooperation. It is India-made. There's no question of sanctions by anyone. It is not an import or an export. And if we agree on a BrahMos 2 version, I think that would be great. The country could benefit even more from it.
Well, we will keep you updated on the latest developments in those meetings between President Putin and Prime Minister Modi. Separately, the Russian Defense Ministry says its forces have claimed control over a village in southeastern Ukraine. Ukraine's military says it struck 2 Russian oil depots, which sparked fires across the sites. No casualties have been reported. Meanwhile, President Trump has said the path ahead for peace in Ukraine is unclear. This has come after Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's advisor Jared Kushner had a reasonably good meeting with President Putin. Witkoff and Kushner reportedly spent hours at the Kremlin but departed with no breakthrough on ending the war.
President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and with Steve Witkoff. What comes out of that meeting, I can't tell you, because it does take 2 to tango. You know, Ukraine, I think we have something pretty well worked out with them. They're very satisfied, considering. But the sad part is, if I were president, no war would have ever happened. They would have had 100% of their territory. Nothing would have happened. It's a very sad situation.
Well, no breakthrough in the talks. Now, the Trump administration has ordered enhanced vetting of applicants for H-1B visas for highly skilled workers. An internal State Department memo ordered officers to consider rejecting anyone involved in censorship of free speech. The officers have been asked to review resumes or LinkedIn profiles of H-1B applicants and family members. The enhanced vetting will apply to both new and repeat applicants. Now, the Defense Ministry is inked a deal with the US to secure support for the Indian Navy's fleet of MH-60R helicopters. The deal is worth nearly 8,000 crore rupees. Under the agreement, the sustainment package will increase helicopter availability and reduce maintenance time, enabling operations from coastal facilities and naval ships. The US State Department has said the deal will aim to improve long-term strengthening of interoperability with US forces and enhance maritime security in the Indian Ocean region. Well, up next, British American Tobacco, BAT, is set to dilute its stake in ITC Hotels worth 3,000 crore rupees in the open market tomorrow. That and more when we return. You can catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Geo Hotstar. Subscribe to CNBC TV 18 Access for exclusive stories. Well, we told you first, and it is now official. Tata Power's MD and CEO Praveer Sinha said the company is close to finalising a power purchase agreement with the Gujarat government. This would allow Tata Power to restart operations at the Mundra Ultra Mega Power project, which remained shut throughout the second quarter. Speaking exclusively to Money Control, Sinha said the agreement may be signed in a few days, adding that 4 other states have said they will also agree to the same arrangement.
I can tell you that we are very close to finalizing it with the government of Gujarat, and it should happen very quickly. Any day it should happen. We expect that once this is finalized with the government of Gujarat, we will be able to take it to all the other 4 states. Very stable plant, and it supplies to all the 5 states at full capacity as per the PPA. And the arrangement will ensure that the plant operates fully right up to the end of the PPA term, which is 2038.
Well, the other developing corporate story, British American Tobacco, BAT, set to dilute its stake in ITC Hotels worth 3,000 crore rupees in the open market tomorrow. The floor price has been set at a 1% discount to the current market price. Shilpa standing by with more details. Shilpa, take us through this transaction.
Well, you're right. The British American Tobacco is set to offload 7% stake in ITC Hotels, which is worth about nearly 3,000 crore rupees through block deals tomorrow. Now, the floor price for this has been set at about 205.65 rupees, which is roughly a 1% discount to ITC Hotels' Thursday closing price of about 207.7 rupees. Now, BAT has said that it intends to sell anywhere between 7% to its full 15.3% stake in ITC Hotels, depending on where it gets the best pricing. Now, this because ITC Hotels is not a strategic holding for BAT. Remember, BAT ended up with a 15.3% stake after ITC demerged its hotel business earlier this year, and that 15.3% stake is now worth about 6,600 crore at its current market value. Now, BAT's CEO also reiterated in a statement that ITC Hotels is not a strategic holding and that the proceeds from this sale will be used to bring the company closer to its 2026 leverage target of 2 to 2.5 times adjusted net debt to EBITDA. Now, as of September, BAT holds about 22.9% in ITC, and this is after it sold about 2.5% stake in ITC earlier this year in May, and that was also directed towards its stated 2026 leverage corridor. So, as of now, about 7% tomorrow is likely to be offloaded, but it does intend to eventually offload the entire 15.3% stake. Back to you.
All right, Shilpa, many thanks for joining us. That is a transaction to watch out for tomorrow. And what else do you need to watch out for? The Reserve Bank of India is all set to announce its monetary policy decision tomorrow. A CNBC TV 18 poll indicates 60% of market participants expect a 25 basis point cut in rates. Ritu joins us now with more. Ritu, so that's what the market's working with, a 25 basis point rate cut.
Will it or will it not? The decision of the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has the street deeply divided. India's robust growth numbers for the second quarter are raising questions about the need for lower rates, despite the record low inflation opening up room for the MPC to cut rates. And the falling rupee is only complicating matters for RBI even more. Now, against this rather dramatic backdrop, the CNBC TV 18 poll shows a clear majority still leans towards easing. 60% of our respondents expect RBI to deliver a 25 basis point rate cut, while 40% believe that the committee will choose to hold. But even among those that are expecting a cut, the belief is that the easing cycle is going to be very short. A strong 60% say the cycle will end in December itself, while 30% expect one last move in February, while 10% think the cycle has already ended. Now, on the eventual landing point for these rates, the sentiment clusters around 5.25% as the likely terminal policy rate. 60% of the economists back that level. Another 30% expect the RBI to settle slightly higher at 5.5%, and only 10% see room for a deeper move to 5%. Now, as far as the macro forecast is concerned, with the economy expanding at a far faster clip than anticipated, 8% average for the first half of the year already, half the respondents believe RBI is going to upgrade its FY26 GDP outlook to 7.1 to 7.2%, and 40% expect an even sharper rise to more than 7.3%. Now, the confidence in growth comes alongside strong disinflation trends as well. So a decisive 90% of those polled expect that the RBI will lower its FY26 CPI projection to 2 to 2.5%, while the rest foresee a slightly deeper cut. Now, even if RBI cuts rates, respondents are very clear that the policy stance will remain neutral, but the tone, they say, may soften. 60% in fact expect a dovish message reflecting comfort on inflation. Now, as far as the rupee's recent weakness is concerned, most do not expect it to influence the decision, with 80% saying the currency will not impact the outcome and the central bank will remain focused on its inflation mandate with an eye on growth. Finally, the liquidity surplus has narrowed amid the tax outflows and RBI's intervention in the forex market. And from December to March, we also typically see cash withdrawals from the system. So the market expects RBI to communicate some liquidity easing measures, including the possibility of an Operation Twist or OMO purchases.
All right, Ritu, many thanks. And of course, as always, remember to tune into CNBC TV 18. We'll bring you all the MPC action live right here. Now, the Supreme Court has directed states to ease the workload of booth-level officers deployed for the Special Intensive Revision of Electoral Rolls, or SIR. States have been directed to reduce work hours, deploy additional staff, and consider exemption requests on humanitarian grounds. BLOs denied relief can now approach the court directly. The apex court's orders come after reports of cases of BLOs allegedly dying by suicide due to intense work pressure. The Bombay High Court has granted bail to former Delhi University professor Hani Babu 5 years after he was arrested in the Elgar Parishad case. The court observed that his prolonged incarceration without commencement of trial violated his fundamental right to a speedy trial. Hani Babu will be released on a 1 lakh rupee personal bond with sureties. He was arrested for his speeches at the Elgar Parishad conclave in Pune in 2017, which the police claim triggered violence near the Koregaon Bhima War Memorial. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. But before we go, CNBC TV 18 is all set to turn 26. Tune in on Monday, the 8th of December, for our special coverage with some of the biggest newsmakers, from top corporate leaders to policymakers. We speak with a wide array of guests as we ring the 26th birthday milestone for CNBC TV 18. But for now, thanks very much for watching India Business Hour. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. The news continues.